Hello, welcome back to another video, and today I want to talk about a really interesting topic. What country has the highest literacy rate? If you don't know what literacy is, it means someone has the ability to read and write in their native languages. Well, you may think it's some of these developed European countries. But even though Europe has a very high literacy rate, it's not Europe. Or you may think it's the United States because of its great education system. Great education system. I mean, for me, my education system was so... I don't even know how to explain it, but anyway... the United States, honestly, from looking at most states, does not have a good education system. But you may think it's a developed country, but no. It's actually a developed... The countries I'm about to list are actually developing countries. You may think, why do developing countries dominate the list? They often have poor education systems. Well, it's not in Europe, it's not in America, and it's not in Oceania. No, it is in Central Asia. Central Asia? How does Central Asia have the highest literacy rate? I don't know either, but we're gonna dive deep into it. So, if you don't know what Central Asia is, it consists of these 5 countries: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. And you also may notice that the majority of this region is made up of desert. Well, it kinda is, because... But anyway, you may be thinking, how does this region have the highest literacy rate in the world? How? Well, we have to dive into its education system. Like many developing countries, Central Asia does not have... their education system is definitely better than mine in Elwood, but it's still developing. It's still developing a good education system, like in the developed countries in Europe. So, we're gonna dive deep into why Central Asia has the highest literacy rate. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had to go to the bathroom and I had to do like a minute of research. So, after looking back at the research, I found out that Central Asia has a very high literacy rate due to the Soviet education system. You may think that the Soviet education system was bad because, you know, most of my viewers are American, and Americans hated the Soviet Union and still hate Russia. You may think that. But no. According to this, the Soviet Union in Central Asia actually had a very good education system. This led to widespread basic education and strong political commitment into education, which most likely is what maintains Central Asia's high literacy rate today. Take Uzbekistan, for example. Uzbekistan is arguably the most affected by this education system. I definitely know that the Soviet education was not the best, because the Central Asian countries have consistent but often lower education, like IQ levels. That doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, because they're still within the average zone. Like, Uzbekistan's 97. Kazakhstan's 96. Kyrgyzstan's like 97 to 94. Tajikistan is 93 to 98. And Turkmenistan, there's no data for Turkmenistan. But we do know, since there's a common trend in Central Asian countries that there's a high literacy rate, we can easily predict that Turkmenistan has an exceptionally high literacy rate compared to all other Central Asian nations. I also found out this fascinating pattern. Turkic countries, which consists, let me just show you, it consists of, well, no, not the arrow, no arrow, which consists of Turkey, Azerbaijan, and these countries right here, which are Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. Hold on a second. I also did some research and I found this fascinating pattern. I noticed that these Turkic countries often have exceptionally high literacy rates. I mean, probably not Turkey. Well, no, Turkey. Turkey is a Turkic country. So this fascinating pattern is that these Turkic nations have very high literacy rates, which is a striking pattern. But do you want to see an even crazier comparison? Let's get out of this. This is Tajikistan, the poorest country in Central Asia and the poorest post-Soviet republic by GDP and GDP per capita, with a GDP per capita of only about $1,200. This is comparable to the country Ethiopia, which is also landlocked and is also very poor, even though it's not in the least developed countries. But you could see a striking difference here. Sorry, the allergies. It's allergy season. Sorry about that. Look at this. The literacy rate in Tajikistan is around 99.6%. That is insane and is higher than most developed European nations, which is actually insane because Tajikistan is very poor. No offense to the Tajiks though. You guys, I bet that the Tajiks are very friendly people. When Ethiopia, the literacy rate is only 48%. And hold on, I want to look back at one thing. Look at this. Tajikistan and the United States are two completely different countries. Tajikistan is about 90 times smaller than the United States, and a population about 34 times smaller. But take a look at this. Only about 80% of Americans are literate. And then look at it again. Tajik. 99.6% of Tajiks are literate. It's honestly a very insane pattern. It's very insane how a country with a GDP per capita of only 1,200 could have a literacy rate 20% higher. It's just a strong correlation. There's also a strong correlation between Turkic countries and literacy rates. It's just insane, honestly. Maybe if I move to this place, my children are going to be very smart, because they're also going to be if I have children and they move here, they're probably going to be extremely literate. Which is honestly quite insane, honestly. Usually people with high literacy rates often have very high IQs. But yeah, that's it for today. And that is why Central Asians are extremely literate and totally not illiterate. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in another geography, stats, or gaming video.